This is Bill Baldwin of Boulevard Realty with an update on flood maps. Please be aware that the Harris County flood maps are about to change. In fact, the way flood maps will be determined is totally new and revolutionary. Make yourself aware of the process and the timeline at Map Next. Map Next stands for Harris County Modeling, Assessment, and Awareness Project, the first of its kind in the nation. It's the next generation of flood mapping using new methodologies, new technology, and new data. The new maps will be released in early 2025, and thousands of homes in Harris County are expected to be added to both the 100 and 500-year floodplains. Likewise, many homes may no longer be in the 100 or 500-year floodplains. After the announcement, there will be a period of 6 to 9 months of education and input. The adoption is not likely until late 2025 at the earliest. Please keep up to date and refer to Map Next on the Harris County Flood Control website.
HAR TV has expanded and we're now offering video services at 4 locations. Our Fort Bend branch located at 6608 Greatwood Parkway in Sugar Land. Our Montgomery County branch located at 25700 I-45 North in Spring. Our Bay Area branch located at 17225 El Camino Real in Bay Area. And our original location at HAR Central located at 3693 Southwest Freeway in Houston. All 4 locations offer all the same high quality video production that you have always experienced here at our central location. Contact us today to get your video appointment scheduled at any one of our 4 locations.
As realtors, we help our clients with all sorts of matters, including how to find available resources that may assist with the down payment. We are proud to announce that Down Payment Resource is now available on HAR.com. This will allow consumers to find out if they meet the criteria for any of the 70 different assistance programs available in the greater Houston region. Some programs are income-based, but many allow higher incomes than you may think. There are also programs specific for people in certain professions, such as police officers, firefighters, teachers, healthcare workers, and others. About 89% of all listings for sale in Houston qualify for some sort of down payment. To find out more, you may visit www.har.com/down payment and work with your realtor to make sure you have everything you need to be able to purchase the home of your dreams.
Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media and Sponsorships for HAR. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and here to discuss this so important topic and how to avoid burnout in a very high stress industry is HAR Chair Shae Cottar. Welcome back to the program, Shae.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning.
Good morning. Again, thank you so much for being here. I know you're chair of the board this year. We know you are so busy, but I know this is a really important topic to both of us, and I'm really glad you could take some time this morning to discuss it with us and some strategies on avoiding burnout, because I think that's something that is unfortunately pretty prevalent within this industry.
Absolutely. I think it's prevalent in a lot of industries today, but I think and I know data suggests that it's not just this industry in particular, but specifically this industry has challenges that a lot of industries don't have. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important for us to be able to build a sustainable work schedule, to know what that looks like and to take care of ourselves in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I know you've got some good tips to share with us today. Can we start though by just sharing what mental health means to you personally and why this is such an important topic to you as HAR chair?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think we live in a time where the conversations around mental health have really been elevated to a positive place. I love a phrase that a dear friend of mine uses frequently, and his words are, mental health is health. Health is health, period, whether it's the health of your mind, the health of your lungs, the health of your heart. It's all health, and mental health is health just like any other kind of health that we might discuss. It's been stigmatized for a long time, and I think we've finally seen a lot of those stigmas fall away, and there's just a lot more understanding and awareness about these issues. For me personally, they're very, very personal for me because, I have my own struggles with depression and with anxiety and with PTSD even. Those are all diagnoses that I've dealt with and have sought different types of medical therapeutic treatment as well as, having fantastic therapists and there's just great support structures all around for that.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing some of that with us. Again, as you're saying, it's becoming more destigmatized. We're going to talk about that a little bit in this conversation as well, because again, real estate is known as an always on industry, and it can be intimidating,
Yeah.
to be honest about some of this stuff. So let's dive into burnout a little bit. What are some of the early signs of burnout that agents or brokers
Oh
should watch
gosh.
for?
Loss of concentration, difficulty concentrating, difficulty with excitement, difficulty feeling like you can look into the day and just tackle it. I think most of the signs of burnout, oftentimes we don't realize they're signs of burnout because we just live with them all the time. Fatigue, depression, trouble eating, trouble sleeping, all of those can be signs of burnout. I think the biggest is when you realize you're just not enjoying what you're doing anymore, and it's a chore. I think that's when you really start to get close, and you have to start looking for ways to really take care of yourself and re-engage.
That's a really good indicator there that you just mentioned, because most of us do what we do because we love what we do. So all of a sudden
Mm,
not enjoying it anymore, right? That could be a really strong indicator. So let's talk about boundaries because
yeah.
I think again a lot of people within this industry I think struggle with this. What are some boundaries that realtors can set to protect their mental health without sacrificing that good customer service?
I think there are two types of boundaries when we talk about this. I think there are the physical boundaries, and when I say physical boundaries, I mean things like times where you just stop. Making sure you turn off your work mode at some point in the day. Making sure that you take time off to spend with family, friends, loved ones, whatever, furry families, like dogs, cats, whatever, whatever refills you and energizes you. I think that is just so important. Those are the physical boundaries. I think the mental boundaries are those things like learning to distance yourself from, say, an escalating situation. That can be a lot harder than those physical boundaries. Turning your ringer off is a lot easier than disconnecting from something that's really, really stressful. But I think those kinds of boundaries can be just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning your ringer off, that struck a chord with me because that's one that I personally, I know I struggle with. Even setting, away times can be difficult, but that's something that, again, setting those boundaries for yourself and for others is so important.
Mm.
So just a little bit of a personal question here, but have you ever experienced burnout in your career, and what helped you through it?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I'll share a story that I shared last week when I was recording the most recent podcast episode for Key Conversations with Shay. In 2017, or I'll back up a little bit from there, a lot of folks know that I'm a second generation realtor. I really had a blessing of a first broker, and that was my mom. She was the first broker I ever got to work with and the first office I ever got to work in. And we worked together for a number of years. And in 2017, she passed away from stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. Now, what happened during that whole transition with our office, I was in charge of the office at that point. It was my responsibility to make sure that our agents kept moving forward, that our clients knew that they were going to continue to be covered, that, everything from a business perspective would just keep moving forward. And so that was my focus. And I feel like I did that really well, but to my own detriment. It was actually a year and a half later when I finally stopped and realized I had been spending all of my energy taking care of everyone else, but not myself. And in 2019, there were a series of events that happened, one right after another, that made it very, very challenging for me. And I finally hit a brick wall and realized I just couldn't go on. I could not move forward without moving forward in a different way. It was really real. Burnout was very real. I read a book one time that I love this phrase. It came from Barking Up the Wrong Tree, the science behind why everything you think you know about success is mostly wrong, by Eric Barker. And he has this beautiful phrase in there that was just, burnout is the flip side of grit. That when we think, this whole hustle culture of grit, of I've got to keep going, keep going, keep going. Well, you can at a cost, and sooner or later you can't. And that's where I ended up in 2019. And I had to just really draw my circle very close. I had to start saying no to a lot of things. I had to start offloading all the baggage I was carrying for other people to make sure that I could carry my own baggage. And then I had to start dealing with that baggage. But I think some of the support structures that were really, really useful for me when I really kind of hit rock bottom, obviously therapy, huge support structure. I think also just some nuts and bolts, tangible things for me were walking, just having that daily rhythm of pulling myself out of my work mode, where I wasn't focused on house. I wasn't focused on job. I was just focused on, I'm just going to walk around. And I did that. I got to where I was walking maybe 2-3 miles a day, a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening. Oh my gosh, totally changed my life. Breathing techniques, just the physical act of slowing our breathing down and making sure we're taking a big breath, because most of the time we're breathing so shallowly. Breathing really does stop that stress cycle. It is something that can absolutely just put the brakes on. Especially with like a breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, then breathe out for a count of 8. That type of rhythm is kind of hardwired into our system to just sort of put the brakes on those anxieties as they're escalating. That was a big one for me. Working out, something that my therapist told me back then that was brilliant, and it was a huge understanding help for me, was that a lot of times my anxiety and my anxiety really big time at that point kept saying, this is just an adrenaline dump. Your body has all this adrenaline it doesn't know what to do with. Put it to use somehow. And so that's why I would go walking. That's why I'd go running. That's why I would go work out. It was a way to use up that adrenaline that my body just had so much extra adrenaline, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, wonderful. So find a trusted person that you can speak to, physically exercise, go for a walk, and focus on that deep breathing, right? There's some really good things there that you mentioned. And thank you again for sharing that. I know that's personal, but I think it's important for us to hear, because I think a lot of us might struggle with difficulty and burnout at different periods in our career, or a high anxiety, and maybe we just don't want to talk about it and just keep burying it. So it's important to bring it to light. So, again, you're chair of HAR. You also advise agents within your brokerage. I'm sure there's brokers that are going to be watching this. What role do you believe that brokerages and leadership play in creating a culture that supports mental well-being?
Great question. I think there are a lot of different things that brokerages can do, and I'll just give you an example from my own past. I've got an agent I was speaking with just a few weeks ago who was in a very, very difficult situation, and she felt comfortable enough sharing with me that because of this situation, it was disrupting her sleep. She was having panic attacks. She was having all of these other effects from this transaction. And the first thing that I thought was really, really beautiful was that she felt comfortable enough just sharing that with me. And I think it's important for brokers to create spaces where agents aren't just transactional. They're not just there to add to our bottom line. We're in community with these folks, and they've trusted us not only for their transactional well-being, but for their work well-being as well. And we have to take that very seriously as brokers. That particular conversation, I kind of have those conversations like every couple of weeks with agents all the time. And I think some of it is our industry right now, right? And there's so much elevated tension and worry about the economy, about the industry. And I think all those things just add to this mix of what we're dealing with. And I think brokerages now more than ever need to be looking for a way to really support their agents.
Yeah, and in a world where people are looking to stand out as well, brokers are looking to stand out, offering support there, I think is probably something that would be really beneficial.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. If you have questions for Shae, type those into the comments. I've seen a lot of people saying good morning this morning. And to your point, Tiffany just made a comment earlier when we were talking about different things within the industry that might weigh on you. She said fear of being sued. So like you just said, the changes within the industry, all of these stressors that we have, it's, important to talk about that with somebody and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So again, if you have questions or comments, you can type those into the chat and we'll take a look at as many as we can. Raul just said, good morning to all. Christina and Shae, great info, muchly appreciated and needed. So again, thank you, Shae, for this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we talked about how brokerages can maybe support their agents. Let's talk about how realtors can support each other. So is there a way that realtors could better support each other when it comes to mental health, especially because it's such a competitive industry?
Absolutely. And, I think you really hit the nail on the head with the use of the word competitive. And this has been a passion of mine for a number of years, back even as far back as maybe 2018 or 19, when I started as an instructor with HAR teaching some classes. I would always open my classes with asking all the agents, the members, to look around the room, and I would always say, there's not one competitor in here. We're all colleagues. In a world where we have population of 4.5 million at least, with the number of licensed realtors that we have in the Houston area, there is enough business to go around. There really is. We're not competing against each other. And the language that we use in these transactions, especially, this is the most contentious, possibly the most contentious time in a consumer's life, with all of the things that go into this transaction. It's the biggest investment of their lives most of the time. It's oftentimes the most emotional investment of their life. There's a lot of tension on all sides. It's going to be a difficult process. Even if everything goes perfectly, it's going to be difficult and a little bit stressful. and we don't have to add more stress to it. The language that we use sometimes, oftentimes, is very combat driven, very war like language where we talk about winning. And of course, if we win, obviously somebody else has to lose, right?
Hmm.
But we're not in a combat situation. We're in a collaborative situation. If this deal isn't a win win for everybody, there's not really a good reason to move forward. It should be a win win for everybody. And the more we can approach these transactions in a positive, collaborative way of speaking with each other, a way of dealing with each other. Not only do we de-escalate the situations and bring all those tensions down, but it's just a much better journey for everybody, and it's much easier on everybody's mental health too. I mean, it's just a foregone conclusion at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple comments that came in. Lana, she was right there with you. She said competitive versus collaborative. So I think that's the better word maybe for our industry. A couple comments. We also had a comment that's from Lana that said, when you have a suggestion, I guess, when you have a good win or life lessons, put it in a Ziploc bag and index cards. And when you have a burnout moment, go to that Ziploc bag, pull out one of the cards, and it'll spring you back to life. And you can also journal your thoughts. That's another great way to
I love that.
release some of that. So thank you for that comment,
Yeah.
Lana. We appreciate that. Tracy Henderson said, find connections and nurture community in the area networking groups. She's a part of the South Bay Area Realtor Breakfast. She said, we are not alone. Fellow realtors get it and help support. Daily devotion each morning and understanding where our true strength lies as well. So thank you for that, and great promo there for our area networking groups. They're all over
Yeah.
Houston, and you can get involved with people in your area. There's a question that came in from Cynthia, and I want to talk about ways to manage stress here in just a second. But Cynthia just had a question. She said she has a habit of working late at night because that's when it's her quiet time. Should she try to change that?
That's a great question, and I think, unfortunately, the only one who can really answer that is you, Cynthia. But I'll share this. Your sleep schedule is very important, but it's also very unique. Everybody's sleep cycle is different. Everybody's sleep schedule is different. Just to compare and contrast for a second, I've had a bad habit most of my adult life of trying to survive on as little sleep as possible. And this has been a real struggle for me for a number of years. I ran on about 4.5 hours of sleep. And I thought that was something worth bragging about. And it wasn't. Now, I'm an early riser. I love that quiet time in the morning. And I love getting up really early in the morning to have that quiet time. For me, it helps me make sure the rest of my day goes smoothly. If I can start my day with order and peace and quiet, that really does make a big difference. But sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, right? My wife is a night owl. I'm a morning person. She's a night owl. She gets that quiet time at night, and it's really valuable to her. So I think with whatever your natural inclinations are, Cynthia, first of all, listen to your gut. If your natural inclination is to be a night owl, there are ways, especially in this industry, to structure our work to lean into that and give yourself that recuperation time in the morning if you need a slower morning. Absolutely.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much. Just one more comment here. And if you have additional comments or questions, type those in and we'll take a look at as many as we can. Fauzia, I hope I pronounced that correctly, said, we're a real estate family, need to always encourage each other, be kind, and work together. So again, all about that collaboration there.
I love it.
So yeah, Shae, what tips do you have for managing stress during busy seasons? Again, it's in May. We're in May right now. Summer is right around the corner. Summer is sometimes very, very busy. Also that end of year crunch that we can get into sometimes. So during particularly busy times, what tips do you have for managing stress?
Good question. I think there are probably three things I would say are some of the easiest. Number one, um, even though your time gets more, gets a lot busier, and there are a lot more things vying for that time, I think it's actually far more important during those times to carve out time to take care of yourself. It feels like you have less time to do it, but it's more important than ever that you do it. So I don't feel like it's something that you need to make sure you do every single day. I love the guidance that, um, oh, where did I first hear it? Oh, you know what? It was, anyway, it doesn't matter. The real issue is that our bodies and our whole universe works in cycles, right? Seasons are cyclical. The moon is cyclical. The tides are cyclical, and taking care of ourselves is sometimes a cyclical thing. We don't need to beat ourselves over the head with this idea. It's something we have to do constantly and every day. That's just one more way of harming ourselves mentally, right? But giving yourself the freedom that, hey, I'm just going to look at this from a cyclical standpoint. And when I feel that tension, when I feel like I've got to slow down, I'm going to listen to that because today is really busy and I'm going to need that more than ever. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is making sure you're taking care of yourself, getting good, good food, good sleep, good fuel for your body. The more you breathe, the more you oxygenate your brain, the clearer your thinking is going to be. The more you sleep, it's just like our kids, right? If our kids are sleepy and they're not taking care of themselves, they're going to get cranky and they're going to get whiny, and we do too as adults. We get cranky, we get whiny when we don't take care of ourselves. The last thing is, I think this has been really helpful for me. Years ago, I built what I call a joy list, and it's a list of about 12 to 15 things that I know that I can grab at a moment's notice, even if I've had the worst day in the world. It might be a piece of music. It might be spending time with my family. It might be, a really great experience out, hiking or something like that. But there are a dozen or more things on my joy list that I know that I can grab at a moment's notice, and it changes my whole day. Sometimes it's just a song, a piece of music that might make things different. I think the more we get into these busy, busy, busy times, having those quick, easy, tangible things we can grab to help change our day makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. I did see another comment that came in from Claudia Seller. She said, "Good morning. Yes, I did take a slower morning today," and I appreciate that, Claudia. When we initially started Member Focus Monday almost 7 years ago now, the initial thought was, you guys are so busy all weekend showing homes, hosting open houses. Monday morning, just grab your coffee, sit down, and let's have a conversation and take it a little slower. So thank you, Claudia, for being here and for sharing that. Also, we did have a comment. I'm not going to pop it up on the screen, but it's a link to a book Crystal Clark shared, Barking Up the Wrong Tree. So a book recommendation there. If anyone else has tips, advice, how you handle stress or burnout, or book recommendations, please share those in the comments. We'd love to take a look at those. Yeah. Susan and Nora said, "So true, making a joy list today. Thanks for the idea." Very good. Shiva said, "I just heard from a doctor that research has proven that gratitude has a direct effect on our heart rhythm." Wow. I had never heard that before. So thank you for sharing that, Shiva. So work-life balance, you talked about having, those gratitude moments, about taking time for family or music or whatever it is that you're wanting to do. How has your approach to work-life balance evolved over the years?
It's I used to think it would be easier to clearly define it. It's all over the place now, and I think that's part of the ease of it now. That for me, it's more. I've gotten to a place where I just trust my gut more. I've had to learn how to trust my gut. Number one, but number two, I think just learning that we can. Let's see. How do I say this? So when we engage our everyday routines, our stresses, our workload, everything that's going on in our lives, I have a propensity to really get amped up, to try to, run at it with full force.
Hmm.
And me running at it with full force is a great way to expend my energy early and get stressed and get really overworked and worn down. And I had to learn to pace myself over the
Hmm.
years. Number one, I've had to learn to, everything is not this Leroy Jenkins moment where you're just going to run into everything. You got to sometimes just take a minute and take a breather and realize, everything doesn't have to have an immediate response. Sometimes in our industry, especially, we get so flooded by questions, whether they're questions from the other agent on the other side of the transaction, or a
Hmm.
consumer, or a client, or whatever it is. And we get so trapped in that frenzy. And we don't have to get trapped in the frenzy. Those
Hmm.
things oftentimes, if we take a beat, we slow down, we handle those when the time is appropriate sometimes. A lot of times those answers may have resolved themselves. A lot of times those situations may have already de-escalated. I've learned the beauty and the magic in waiting a minute
Hmm.
before you jump into something, and that's something I've had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an instinct, right? You want to just jump in and start right away. A lot of us have personalities like that, and
Hmm.
it's definitely something you have to take a step back and do. A comment that came in from Beth, she just said, and I'm loving these comments that are in the chat. I'm trying to read as many of them as we can. Cindy Heyman, for example, said she just calls it her me time. When she needs a break, it's her me time. Beth
Yep.
said, I highly recommend Ninja Selling and their calendar. It helps with the
Hmm.
balance and gratitude and even has check boxes for each day. So that sounds good. It's keeping you productive as well. And somebody else said, I love the ninja way. Exactly. Teresa Hill said, sometimes it's okay to say no. Lighthouse Realty Texas said, my word of the year is pause. So love
Ooh, I
that.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, very good. So let's talk about habits. Are there any particular, you mentioned walking, right? Are
Mm.
there any daily or weekly habits that help you stay grounded?
Yeah, and again, kind of going back to this idea of it being cyclical, I'll share from my own struggle. When I talk about breathing, for instance, as a good habit, there are two different ways to approach that breathing idea, especially that 4-4-8 pattern breathing. You can
Mm-hmm.
utilize that when you're stressed out, when you've got an anxiety attack or panic attack. You can utilize that to help stop the emotions and the adrenaline in that moment. But the real benefit of that kind of breathing is going to be experienced after you've been engaging that process for 3 weeks or more. So there's an immediate help when you use it, but there's a super beneficial part of it that brings down our heart rate, brings down our blood pressure, brings down so many other things in our body. It cuts down on our um, cortisol levels. There's so many beautiful things that happen with that. And what I've done in the past as a habit is, as realtors, we're sitting in meetings all the time. Especially if we're engaged and we're working a lot. We're either in meetings with our broker, we're in meetings with other agents, we're in meetings with our consumers, our clients. And when other people are talking, there have been times where I've just tried to remind myself, hey, I'm just going to start this breathing pattern while somebody else is talking in this conversation. And I might do that 3, 4, 5, or more times a day. And when I'm doing that on a daily basis for weeks on end, I'm finding that those anxiety attacks rarely happen. Now,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they still do, but it's a much bigger proactive approach when you're developing that habit when you don't necessarily need it. So that's, I think, another process that really helps me stay grounded. Another one is just having things that are just real Shay. Just I'm not the chair 24/7. I am Shae 24/7. My family will remind me I'm not the chair 24/7. Um, there are all sorts of beautiful things that happen in life to remind us of the real importance of things, and I think just paying attention and being open is one of those habits that help keep us grounded.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Just wanted to share a comment that came in from Claudia Seller. She said, I didn't know group karaoke could be such a good way to blow off steam. So there's something
I
fun you
love
can
a
do.
good group karaoke.
And
Yep.
if I may, I mean, just sharing from my own personal experience, I think
Mhm.
part of the battle a lot of times is just getting up and going to do it, right?
Mm.
You're talking about walking. Many people know I have an 8-year-old daughter and now a 5-month-old son. And in the trenches of baby life and sleep regression and all the things that come with it, we're talking about sleep. It sounds really good to me, but
Yeah.
we as a family like to go walking sometimes, and there was a day just last week that we were getting ready to go walk, and I'm looking at my husband and I was like, ugh, you go walk, I don't even feel like going to walk. But the second I went outside to just get the stroller out of the back of the car and the sun hit my face, I was like, oh wow, I feel better. I was already feeling better from just taking a step outside and getting some vitamin D for a quick second. And
Hmm.
I came back inside and I said, okay, I'm ready to go walk. So
It's funny.
just
The thing
getting up and going to do it really just makes a difference
Yeah.
sometimes.
And the thing I love about walking is I can be angry at myself for getting up to go walk. And I start literally like shuffling my feet on the pavement like a petulant little kid because I'm going to go walk. And you can do that and you're still walking and it's great. And like 20 feet down the road, I'm not angry little Shay anymore. I'm excited Shay that I'm outside and I'm walking and it's like a low threat way to get going. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a question that came in, and I know we're getting close on time, but I still have a few questions for you. Felina was saying,
Sure.
and maybe you could offer some advice here. She was saying, I'm interested in how to plan a day off during the week. And this is a great question here because I think some people feel like they can't even afford to take a break, right? You just have to
Mm.
be busy all the time. So I'm looking for a way to plan a day off during the week. I try, it never works out. It's hard not to take client calls and feeling like there's so much to do that I can't afford to take time away. Are there any thoughts or suggestions that would be helpful?
Yeah, I would say number one, I get that feeling like you just can't afford to take time away. But the reality of it is you can't afford not to. That's the real truth. And the most professional industries in the world have business hours. And so you've got business hours too. And you can be off during a time and part of it is training and setting that expectation for our clients. I love this phrase. I learned it years ago, but most of the time frustration is just unmet expectation. If your clients are getting frustrated, then it's on us to just set that expectation a little bit differently. And sometimes it's a trial and error. Sometimes we got to try it a few different ways before we find that right combination of days or language of how to phrase it or whatever. But I think most of the time, at least from what I've experienced, when I try to take that time off and I get so worked up with my anxiety during that time off, thinking, what in the world am I going back to? Everything's fine when I get back. The world didn't burn down. There might be some things I have to take care of, absolutely. But there's a song that made a huge difference in my life a long time ago, and it had a phrase that troubles are shadows. They're never as large as they seem. And I think when we're taking that time off, right, it kind of magnifies those shadows and we get worried about all the unknowns. And sometimes it's just developing that time to do it. And the more that we do it, we're reinforcing the reality that when we come back, it's okay. And only by doing that more and more, we start to let go of those shadows of worry because we're starting to build the repetitions that tell us we're not going to go back to chaos. It's going to be okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. Well, I think Juana, I think it was Juana. Yes, Juana agrees with you. She about taking time off and that building anxiety. She said she doesn't feel comfortable taking a whole day off because it increases her anxiety. So she'll take 30 minutes, an hour, a morning, and even those periods of time do help.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a common feeling amongst our industry. I think. Very good. And I have a few more comments that I want to get to, but resources. Let's talk about that for a second. What are some resources either through HAR or in the community that you recommend for realtors that are looking for support?
Absolutely. I think number one, somebody already mentioned this, those networking groups are a great source of community support. We're all in this together. Everybody understands what we're all going through in this industry. I know there are some classes that HAR offers as well. There's Burnout to Beast Mode. Is that one of the
Yeah.
class names? So there's a that class. I know that there are a lot of other support systems. If you've never spoken to a therapist, I highly recommend it. It's just like having a really 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 smart friend who can help you think through things. There was a time where I used BetterHelp. It's a great service, betterhelp.com. They can work on a sliding scale. They've got great therapists that they can hook you up with. Books, I think there are a number of books that have been very helpful. The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate is probably one of the most pivotal for me. That Barking Up the Wrong Tree book that was linked earlier has been another great book. Why We Sleep is another great book that if you're worried about that one. Just some great books out there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the stigma, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. How can we remove that stigma around mental health conversations in real estate?
Just talking about it, I think. The more we talk about it, the more we share our own experiences about it. I think it just continues to destigmatize it. And again, I love the phrase that mental health is health, period.
Yeah, very good. And as many say, health is wealth. So this all impacts your bottom line as well. Just a comment here. Crystal said, building a purpose-driven business is our newest class. So I know some people were curious about what classes we might offer. So check out the education website, har.com/education. For more info on that. And Crystal did share a link as well in the comments. I wanted to share a few other comments that came in because I think, again, I truly appreciate your time, Shae, because I think this is such an important conversation. A few things that came in. Andrea said, thank you for doing this talk. I feel like in this industry, it's needed so much. Going nonstop is like a badge of honor, and it's so important to balance your work and personal life. And that's true. You do see the people that brag about being so busy, right? Because it's something we think we need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember sharing a meme years ago with Don Draper that talked about, hey, you excited about your 40-hour work week? Yeah, I had my first part-time job. I remember that meme. And no, it's not a badge of honor.
It's not a badge of honor. April said, you have to fill your bucket before you can fill someone else's. Thank you for sharing your insight, Shae.
Absolutely.
Barry said, thank you for the discussion on a topic that affects so many in our industry. I would argue it affects all of us, right? And Deborah had a good comment here. Loving this conversation. I'm going on a walk for me today. So
Fantastic.
Enjoy your walk, Deborah. Enjoy that walk. Very good. And again, just a lot more people thanking you in the comments. More book suggestions. Teresa Hill said Miracle Morning is another great book as well. So keep that conversation going in the comments. We're really appreciating that. So Shae, I know we went a little over time with you today, but again, this was such a good back and forth, and we had so many good insights from the live viewers. What final piece of advice would you offer to realtors who are trying to build a successful career without burning out?
Keep trying. Keep at it. It's worth the struggle. I get it. It is a struggle, but it is absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Well, Shae, again, thank you so much for your time today. I know your time is so important, and so we truly appreciate it. And again, just the comments are rolling in how much they appreciate it as well. So thank you for the focus on this, but also just your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this discussion up. Absolutely.
Of course. Well, that is it for this Member Focus Monday. Just a quick note, next Monday is Memorial Day, so we will not have a show next week, but we will be back the first Monday in June at 9 a.m. with another Member Focus Monday. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.